Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be talking about who's next. So essentially what I've done is I want to have a look at the age profile of the list and kind of look at the guys from that age group of, we'll say 22 years and younger, and get a bit of a discussion going around who is going to be that next future star of ours or just solid contributor. I think we in the past have probably put a lot, maybe too much pressure on these draftees, so I'm very mindful of that, but I think we can see a few players in this bracket who ultimately are going to help us move forward. They're going to cement themselves in the best 22 at some point by either, kicking out somebody that's already there or just performing at a level where we have to play them. And it got me thinking, where it looks like we're in good shape. So if we have a look at the list of the players at this point in time who are 22 years or younger, I mean, Sam Walsh is 22. I don't think we need to talk about Sam Walsh too much. I think we know what he already brings to the table. We know we're in good hands there. It's actually quite crazy when you look at it and you look at the table and you see his age and you think, goodness me, we've already gotten so much production out of him and he's still so young. He's only 22. So Sam Walsh, we might put him to the side. Essentially, we're looking at this group, Brodie Kemp, Sam Philp, Josh Honey, Corey Durden, Dominic Aquay, Jack Carroll, Jesse Motlop, and then the new boys, Hollins, Lemmy, Binns, and Cowan. Now, of this group, we look at those who have played the most games. Now, Corey Durden's obviously about to enter into his third season. He's played 23 games. He's kicked the 16 goals. Jesse Motlop coming into his second season. He's played the 12 games and he's kicked the 12 goals. And then we've got Jack Carroll's played the 5 games. Josh Honey's played the 11. Sam Philp's played the 2. Brodie Kemp has played the 6. So I look at this list. I think the natural one that jumps out to me is Jesse Motlop, probably because of how comfortable he looked in his first season. And he seemed to really climatize to the level a lot more smooth than I had probably anticipated. But he's certainly got it. Whatever it is, he's got it. And I think the small forward position is a position where you don't necessarily need to wait 5, 6, 7, 8 years for these types of players to impact. I think when you talk about the tall forwards, generally speaking, and the tall defenders, there is generally a wait period of 3 to 5 pre-seasons, and that probably still is the case for the small forwards. But there's something about Motlop and even Durden to an extent where we've seen them impact games. Motlop, I think for me, Motlop's probably got more of a goal, an ability to kick goals than Durden does. I think Durden's main strength is the pressure that he puts on and the intensity in which he runs and moves with. But he also showed some signs throughout the year in season 2022 where he could handle the ball and win some of the ball up the ground. And I think that might be something that we'll look to expand on. Kind of reminds me a little bit, very, very cautious of putting comparisons, but the idea of him becoming like a Boomer Harvey type player, small forward early on, then he started winning a little bit more of the ball, getting some midfield minutes or even on the wing. I just think there's something dynamic about him that we can add to his game. And again, he's coming into that third season, so he looks like he could start impacting. So Motlop and Durden as those small forwards, will it be both of them? Will it be one of them to really take that next leap? We'll see. I think Brodie Kemp is a really interesting one. I think he comes with, obviously, he's highly touted. We know the history of his body and his injuries in his draft year. And then ultimately, when he got to the club, he hurt himself as well. At this point in time, I'm just not sure exactly where he's going to be playing for season 2023. The development pathway for him, I don't really know exactly what it is. Is it a little bit of both? Will he get some exposure as a forward this year or this season? I'm not sure. I'm also mindful of who would he potentially be replacing in the back line as it stands right now. And I think the only one that he can really make a case for might be someone like a Nick Newman. But I still think, first of all, I think Nick Newman's got plenty of footy left in him, and I think he's still quite some time away from having Brodie Kemp replace him in the side, if they're all fully fit. So I'm a little unsure as to where Brodie Kemp is at. Jack Carroll's a really interesting one. So as I said, he's played the 5 games. I remember his first 2 games last season. He looked really good at the level, and then he tapered off a little bit, as you would expect. He's another one that seems to really put an emphasis on putting that size on. He's, naturally, I think he's an inside midfielder, naturally speaking, but because of the fact that he's so young and he's playing in the AFL with bigger bodies. I think we've had to deploy him a little bit more across half forward and even on the wing at times. But I think ultimately he's going to become an inside type player. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the sense I get because of the way his body continues to grow and he's clearly putting the work in. So I think he's definitely one that will have a quantum leap. I don't know if it's going to be season 2023 or season 2024, but certainly feels like for me that it's coming. And I look forward to that. Josh Honey is another one who's been pretty highly touted. I mean, he was a later pick originally, but we know he's got the moves. We know he's got something there. I'm a little unsure as to when it's going to happen. I think that he's still some time away. I mean, he's very fit. He's got that X factor about him. Ultimately, he needs to be able to do it for longer in order to get into the side and stay in the side. It's an interesting balancing act. How do you balance it? Do you give games in order to develop, or do you make them earn it strictly in the VFL before they come in? And that's something I think we've changed a little bit as a team where we were probably just playing these young players really early on just to get them exposed to the level, and maybe they got games too early. So I'm just not sure. I just don't think yet at this point he's reached a level where I'm fully confident in saying, yeah, play Josh Honey for 18 games and see what happens. I think he's got some development to come, but he looks to be in the sweet spot. Like, he's been in the system a few years now. I'm hoping that this is the year that he takes a significant leap, given his experience, given his body. He's a pretty fit player, so I'm not sure where he's at. Sam Philp is probably a bit more of a mystery to me than anything else. I know that the body has clearly let him down. Again, it's an interesting conversation. How much, like, what is the situation? Is it just he's unlucky? Is there something that we've missed that he could be doing to prevent these injuries? Is the body just needing a couple of years in the system to get used to the rigors of the league and you know how tough it is? I'm not sure. I'm also a little unsure as to exactly what he is. I don't know exactly the position he will ultimately play. It's a big unknown for me. I don't know. I'd like to hear and read your thoughts on Sam Philp and where he's going to fit eventually if he does get himself into the side. And then, you know, we've got Dom McQuay. I like the development that he showed last season from where he was at the beginning until now. I think it shows the work that he's been putting in. I'm not really in a rush for him. I think because of the back line has got so many senior bodies in there, I think it would be pretty tough to expect him to break in 2023. I mean, never say never for anything, but my sense in this moment is that we've still got some more layers to add to his game and his body. But if he keeps developing at the rate that he did, you know, last season, I think in 3 to 4 to 5 preseasons, we're talking about a really solid player. And also when you think about the players that he would be learning off, you know, the Wiederings and the Dohertys and these guys in the back line, they're pretty senior. And so I think he's in good stead to impact, maybe not straight away, but I think he's on the right path. And then there's the draftees, Cowan, Binns, Lemmy, and Hollands. Hollands and Cowan are the two that I look at, and I'm like, yeah, they could impact. I don't know, something about Cowan that just interests me. I like the fact that he was the captain of the Tasmanian team. I like just the look of him. He's got like a rough look about him. I think we need that. I think we need that for sure. And I just like the highlights. I like the dare and the dash that he provides. Hollands, the only question mark I have is around his size. Like, he's very slight, as most draftees are, but at the same time, he's an outside player and he's an elite runner already. So he just needs to get the ball on the outside, and that's something we have not really unlocked as a team, the ability to utilize that outside run for long enough. So I'm hoping he's going to be able to impact. Binns, kind of like him as well. A bit of X factor around him. Not sure how much to expect of him in his first season, but at this stage, I would guess that the two that will probably get first crack would be Hollands and Cowan. But I like the look of Binns. And then Lemmy, spoke about it on the draft night when we did the live watch along. It's a really great situation for him to be in. Now, the club released, you know, when they drafted him, they put the tweet out saying that he can play forward and back. But I like him to start as a forward initially because I'm really I'm really thinking that we need to have that extra layer of cover in the forward line in the event that Charlie or Harry miss. And that's something we haven't had. And then when you look at the VFL, they haven't had a really strong, recognizable forward. We've had guys in there that are either undersized or are not natural forwards, but they're footballers, so you put them there and they know how to halve a contest and bring it to ground and do the rest. Whereas Lemmy is a forward. So I'm excited for the prospect of him developing in a full year in that forward line, because you know the supply is going to come to him. He's going to get plenty of opportunity to impact games, and I look forward to it. So these are the guys, but I mean, the three names really, it's the boys that live together. It's Durden, Motlop, and Carroll. I think one or more of these three are going to make that quantum leap and really play a few more games than maybe what we expect coming up for this season. And then Brodie Kemp is another one. Like, I know the ability is there, and that's the thing. I know the ability is there, but he's coming up against, I think him and Carroll, it's a little bit tougher for them to impact in the 22 because there are so many players ahead of them in that position, whereas Durden and Motlop, there's them and Owies as small forwards. So two of the three are likely to be playing most weeks. So it's a little, I wouldn't say easier, but they're the clearly defined small forwards. In a pool of 3 or 4, there's 2 of them right there. Whereas with Kemp, there's so many defenders that I would say are ahead of him right now. That's not to say that he's not capable. Then the discussion turns to maybe Kemp can move as a third tall forward and put some pressure on a guy like Jack Silvani or Jack Martin as that third option, because we definitely need a third avenue at goal. We've got 2 clear ones. I don't think we've got 3. I mean, I know Cripper kicked a good chunk of goals last season, and you'd hope that happens again, but I still think we need a recognised third, goal kicker that can kick us 25 plus goals, 25 to 30. So that's where I'm thinking about Kemp. What about you? Who's next? Who's it going to be? Which of these young boys are going to take that step and be the real shining light for the future of the club? Let me know in the comments below. We'll chat then. Go Blues.